Hey guys, Reed here. I just wanted to hop on before today's episode of the Get to Know Your Wedding Pro podcast to let you know that we have recently launched our new wedding planning podcast, Best Made Weddings. And I think this is going to be a really fun way to bring on some of the past voices that we've had on the podcast. We're going to be doing a lot of, roundtable discussions, answering questions from the audience. And I think it's going to be a really good way to bring you guys a lot more information, for wedding planning, answering questions and stuff that you might have, and also kind of tackling, important subjects that people want to talk about, regarding wedding planning and in the news and whatnot. So if you want to search Best Made Weddings on Apple Podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook, everything else, I have everything set up. And if you want to go to www.bestmadevideos.com/subscribe, I have a really nice new page set up where you can, subscribe to either podcast or both, links to leave reviews, and to also like and follow us on YouTube as well. And that would be greatly appreciated as we try to launch this new endeavor. So if you have a quick second, www.bestmadevideos.com/subscribe. You can do it right from your phone, and it'll take you, there's links to take you to Apple Podcasts and everything else for both of the new podcasts. This should be a good episode today. Thanks again for listening. Talk soon. Bye. Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And I really am excited today to be joined by my friend Craig Slater. He's a DJ, someone that I've been bugging him for a long time to come on. We always run into each other at, the Seattle Wedding Show and the Snohomish Wedding Show and the tour and everything. And so I do mean it. I am excited to have you come on today. I know it's busy and it's a crazy time, but thank you so much for taking time. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Reed. My name is Craig Slater. I'm with Bugsie Productions. We're a DJ company / MC company, providing entertainment for weddings and corporate events.
And what's neat about you, and we talk a lot at the shows and kind of talk shop or whatever, but you guys do a good balance, right, between like the office stuff and the wedding stuff. I mean, do you pride yourselves on kind of riding both sides of that line?
We do. We are, to kind of give you a little bit of a history as far as what we do. I've been in the industry since 2001. I've been in the industry since 1992. Started DJing in 96. For the longest time, I was the only DJ here, and then we had hired one guy to help assist me. Took him through our apprenticeship program. Then he ended up becoming our second DJ. We now have a really sweet spot whereas we have like about 3-4 DJs max, only because you're dealing with a lot of egos. People think they're the best DJ in our company, which is great, but it comes down to referrals and the amount of reviews that you get from our clients. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Sorry.
Don't be nervous. We're going to be good. We're going to get through this. Tear up the pamphlet. We're going to roll.
Okay, done.
And so, no, but I mean, you guys are always busy. It always seems like you're working with a lot of, high-end planners stuff. I mean, talk about, is it just kind of the networking, just your personality? I mean, talk about just being able to kind of go, like you said, from just a guy, doing the DJ, whatever, and now to kind of run, a company and actually be like a big time, making money.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say we're a big time money-making company.
But you know what I mean.
We care more about our clients than we do, profits. We want to make sure that whatever we do reflects upon us, whether it be clean music, guest interaction, taking charge when the time is needed. We are just a very self-sufficient company that can help provide our clients, or whether it be weddings or whoever it is, the best service that we can possibly provide.
And so how did you get involved in like you said, you started being a DJ? Because I don't know any of this, right? I mean, we talk, and this is why I really like, this podcast is like, I see people at, networking events and shows and stuff and weddings, and it's like, oh, hey, what's going on, whatever. But like, I know nothing about, right, you, like how you got into like any of this at all. And so kind of, how did you get involved just in music and stuff in general? Was that something that you were really excited about growing up?
So back in the days, I don't even want to date myself right now. But so my mom was a dance instructor. And so she would teach us dance, tap dance, things like that. And we would do, what do you call that? Just different like dance academies and different rehearsals and go to shows and put on a show for certain people. And I'd love to be in part of something like that. But it wasn't until back in 1992 when I started working for a company called Clowns Unlimited, where we had to dress up like clowns and just a bunch of different things, where we were actually face to face with people and got to interact with them. And making people happy was probably one of the coolest things that I could possibly ever do, because I know how it made me feel when somebody smiled or laughed or, was just excited that I was there. And it didn't have to do with the makeup. It was just actually putting them in a good mood, putting them in a different perspective as far as, when you do something for somebody and it makes them happy, that's self-rewarding yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and now I had no idea when you said, well, I was at Clowns Unlimited, and I said I must have misheard that, and no, it was Clowns. That's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, so Clowns Unlimited is now owned by Lance Salisbury from National Event Pros. So him and I both started back in 1992. I took control in 1996 of the company with Bob Washburn, who owned the company. And then I ran it for about, I think I left in 2001. But between 2001 and 1996, there was another guy, his name was Craig Vinton, who owned a company called All Star Entertainment. And he wanted me to come work for him. And I was like, well, really didn't want to do it. But he gave me all these different ideas as far as like aspects of, teaching me how to run an entertainment company. He had like these gyrotrons, which you probably won't ever see anymore. Sumo suits. He had it all. But the one thing that he had that stood out the most was when we went to these events is that he was DJing for these corporate events. And people were dancing and laughing. And the aspect of the music behind it, the atmosphere that he created, just elevated that level of people's attitudes, people having a good time. It wasn't the fact that, yes, you're obviously with people. If you're at a corporate event, you're mostly socializing with other people from work. Families are coming out, they're having a good time. You're eating good food. You may have a couple drinks. But behind it all, he was the one running the show. So I love that aspect of it. Whereas, you could be not necessarily, I want to call it center of attention, because that's not what we try to provide. We just want to make sure that everybody gets to feel has the same feeling that we're trying to create, whether it be a happy feeling, or, well, we don't want to say emotional or sad or anything like that. But we just want to create a great atmosphere that's going to put everybody in a good mood so that when they leave any type of an event or that social gathering, that they're going to be talking about it for years to come, because it's going to make us happy. It's going to make us have a repeat client, so that again and again throughout the years, we know that we can come back and do this event. It's not going to be the same every single year by any means. We always try to up our game, create something new, do something different. So when the guests come, they know that it's not going to be the same type of event. Again, people call it cookie cutters. We try to stay away from that term as much as possible, just because every year we do something different for everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, even like you said, kind of running, the clowns and all that, like, because entertainment is entertainment, kind of whatever it is, and it could be, a light show or, like you said, like sumo suits or whatever. There's just the idea, of building this client experience is kind of the same no matter what. And that's what's so great about like wedding vendors too, right? Like everyone brings their own. You're an artist in music or florals or, doing invitations or kind of whatever. So that's really fascinating. Were you more involved in kind of the behind the scenes stuff there, or did you like put on the makeup a lot and do that kind of stuff too? Because I do see you as a jovial guy that could do that.
So let's kind of back it up a little bit. So when I first started with Clowns Unlimited, I was what's called a ride operator. So you set up these inflatables and so forth, and then you let people come in and play with them. But at the time, back when I first started with them, it was called Clowns Unlimited. So you had to dress up like a clown, and then you had to sit here and set up this ride and then be a clown as people came in to these inflatables. It wasn't until quite a few years later that we ended up transforming our ride operators into like suits and shirts, and not suits, but like a jumpsuit or something like that. So it was a little bit more formal, only because people expected us to do magic shows. Now I knew how to do magic tricks, magic shows, different things like that, but that's not what I really wanted to do. I love the aspect of always owning my own company. I remember back in college, or even before college, I always wanted to start a business. Back in the early 90s, I opened up a vending machine company with a guy that I met in college. And this guy was 50-something years old and says, hey, you know what? Let's do something together. You're very motivated. You've got a lot of determination. Would you be interested in doing this with me? And I was like, sure. Yeah. So back when I was in college, I was working for UPS. I started working for Clowns Unlimited. And then we started a vending business, which was just like chips and sodas and different things. And then it got to be so busy that I had to pick something. And I couldn't necessarily narrow down exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that being in the vending industry was not something that made me happy because I wasn't pleasing others, if that makes sense. So I ended up selling my shares back to him. Wanted to take over Clowns Unlimited, but the owner said no. So what did I do? I decided to go out and start my own company. And once I started my own company, it was a stretch. It was a very big struggle in order to get things back to where I was going and making the same amount of money that I was. I mean, it took me years to be able to make the same amount of money I was back when I was working for that other company, only because I was on a salary and there was an income you could expect every 2 weeks. Whereas now, owning your own company, you got to find the clients. You've got to make sure that you provide a good service. So you got either a repeat business or referrals coming in so that you can keep the business coming in and get a paycheck.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing. I mean, and I remember, when we started, it was easier for me because like I wasn't making anything, in TV. And so it's like, well, it's really easy to like, get that money on the other side, right? Like if you're not making a lot, you don't have to make a lot in like your business, to feel like you're doing a good job. And I remember like, I've talked with my buddy Paul a lot that lives down in LA, and he makes really good money in TV. And he's been wanting to kind of do the same thing and branch out on his own for years. And it's so much harder for him actually making, I think he probably makes 6 figures in news, right? And so it's like it's really hard to be like, well, I'm gonna forego that and try to get my own thing, right? It's just the more like successful you are in whatever your career is, it's really hard sometimes to like you said, you really got to start from the bottom again and claw your way back up.
Yeah, but for me, I rate success in happiness. So I wasn't happy working for somebody else. I wasn't happy necessarily making somebody else $750,000, millions of dollars a year. I was more or less interested in how can I make myself happy and yet also find that line that I can be creative in. So when I opened up Bugsie Productions, we were first doing nothing but corporate events. I mean, we had so many relationships throughout the years of working with that other company that people were so interested in using us as their primary entertainment, whether it be music or interactive team building games, things like that, when we first started, that was our main concept. How can we help all of these corporate events, feel successful? Being the person behind the scenes and then making it happen day of was incredible. And relationships formed. People decided, hey, you know what? Could you actually DJ a wedding? So the first wedding we actually did, I can't even remember the year, but it was actually a wedding that we did in Canada. Now, I will never go to Canada again to do a wedding, but it was very interesting. It was outside of the country. They have different aspects and styles to weddings than what we traditionally do here, because they always want somebody from the family to actually act as the MC. So you never know exactly what's going to come out of the mouth of a relative. And you got to be very careful. I was like, well, do I turn the mic down? Do I shut him off if he's going to misspeak? Because people drink, people make mistakes. And when it comes to somebody giving a toast or even giving them the microphone so that they can lead and facilitate this wedding the way they want to is great. But that was probably the most scariest aspect of doing a wedding for the first time by myself. So Once we got back into the States, it was completely different. We had kind of like a set formality as far as what we would do to help create weddings. We give our clients a wedding agenda, which is like their blank canvas, but then gives them ideas as far as things they can do throughout the day to choose from. Now, if they choose to do something, great. If not, we can kind of help them, again, facilitate a flow throughout the day to help guide them to make things happen the way they want to, but yet also make sure that every request that they want is taken care of.
What was it? You had said back, in college and growing up that you always felt like you wanted to, run your own business and do that. What was it about that appealed to you so much?
I think it was about just being my own boss.
And in what aspects was that appealing?
It wasn't so much that I really was like looking forward to having employees and bossing people around. It was setting my own hours, being able to spend time with family, just having a lot of independence. Whereas you go in, you check in from 9 to 5, you're working for somebody else. You're making sure that you get a small portion of whatever it is that they get. And in the long run, you got to ask for time off. You got to make sure that, if I call in sick, is that going to affect anybody? There's so many things that you have to think about when you're working for somebody else, whereas you work for yourself. And again, we can't call in sick, especially when it comes to a wedding, because it's a one day that happens once in a lifetime. And if somebody does get sick, we do have backup DJs that we can call, or if something happens, but for the most part, it's just being independent.
So when you launched on your own, right, were you able to, I think were maybe had a little bit of benefit of maybe having some ideas and stuff of what you wanted to do. I mean, like having kind of been involved in like other like kind of entrepreneurial things. Like when I started investment videos, like I had no idea like at all what I was doing. Did you feel like you had some good feet under you to like figure out what you wanted to do and where you wanted to take it?
Well, being in the industry for so long, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, because being surrounded from caterers to people who provided the music, the magicians, the clowns, all the aspects of entertainment. I got to see all that stuff for years. And when the gentleman from All Star Entertainment, who's no longer here, had showed me the avenues of how to bring music to an event and to, incorporate everything that he did to an event to make it successful. I found that to be more uplifting than anything.
When it came time to kind of start assembling the team, like you said, it's challenging sometimes, people and DJs especially, and I deal with that too with video, and people want to do stuff the way that they want to do it. And it's that fine balance. How did you go about kind of assembling that team of guys that you really trust around you?
So we went to college and found people who were working for a restaurant or who were self-motivated. A lot of times, like when I was taking the business classes, I would find people who had the same kind of mentality I did, and found that people who were willing to work really hard, people who had a diversity towards either running a business or wanting to find a bigger picture for themselves. That's where we found the best people to work for us. Trying to put ads on Craigslist or things like that never really worked out really well. I was just kind of shooting for the bottom of the barrel. So finding people from college that, we never really told them what it was when I had Bugsie Productions, what we did. I would develop the relationship with the individual first. And then once that relationship evolved, I would then ask them if they were interested in coming to work for me.
What do you want your brand to stand for? What do you want that when you talk about Bugsie Productions? Like, what do you pride yourself on in terms of that, that brand recognition?
I think it's more of integrity, diversity, things like that help keep Bugsie Productions where we are today. Most of our events come from referrals, not necessarily from the shows that we do. We do the Seattle Wedding Show, the same one that you do. But a lot of our clients don't come from there. It usually comes from referrals.
And so when you say that you get a lot of your business from referrals and stuff, I mean, talk about, obviously that means that you guys are doing things right? I mean, you're building the right connections, and then also you're, delivering on, the expectations that they have, right?
Yeah. I hope we are. I mean, that's the only reason that we've been in business for so long. So Bugsie Productions has been in business since 2001. We've hired the right people. We've had to let go of the wrong people, obviously. There are multiple companies out there that have multi-ops like we do. But yeah, there's a sweet spot to it. We had 7 DJs at one point in time that worked for us, and we realized that 7 DJs is more of a headache than there needs to be running a company, at least for a small company. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the toughest thing, and I think we've even talked about this in the past too, because, we have, I have like Matt that works for me, and, we try to split some dates too, but then like I'll see a lot of videographers be like, hey, we're looking, let's subcontract this and let's do all this. And, that gets really scary for me because it's like, how are you managing those expectations and those, the delivery of that, right? I mean, do you want to talk about that? Like, because I don't know how it's scary, right?
It is very scary. So as far as like handling expectations of, we get calls all the time from other companies, asking if we can fill in or if we have anybody left available, because they're, unavailable or they're already booked or maybe something happened to them, so we have the opportunity to help people out, depending on the style of client. We actually have the opportunity to be a little bit picky and choosy when it comes to our clients. We don't necessarily want everybody that comes in here to ask about us or that's asking for pricing. So as we set up a time to talk with our clients or potential clients, or, maybe somebody's just emailing us to set up a time to talk. It's kind of goes both ways. We're interviewing them as they're interviewing us. We want to make sure that everybody's a good fit for one another, because some people may not feel comfortable with me, but maybe, say, for example, if I have a client that calls in and says, hey, we're looking for this style of music. We're looking for somebody who's very interactive, wants to get people up, not necessarily up and dancing, but just very interactive with the audience. Well, I've got several DJs that I can, lean towards or tell you where to go to. For example, like Sean and Yoshi, they've been with me for about 10 years. They are incredible DJs. Sean is more of our EDM guy, which is electronic dance music for those people who don't know what EDM is. And we couldn't be where we are today without them. But they had to go through a lengthy process, which is known as our internship process. It's a 2-year process. So instead of DJ who just starts a company and says, hey, you know what, I'm going to be a DJ. They throw their name on Facebook. They have some music that's either illegally purchased, or they just download it off of YouTube. There's a bunch of different ways to get into this business, but yet to be somebody who can be a DJ and talk in front of people, play the right style of music, that is a process. The 2 years it takes for some of these guys to actually develop relationships, get their name out there, know how to set up the gear, know what it takes, talking to clients, developing relationships. It's an ongoing process. But for us, we have a 2-year minimum apprenticeship program that they have to go through. We've had some people that have tried to excel through the program and find out that they fail later down the road. So those people who come into this knowing that it's going to be rough for the first 2 years, but on the back end of those 2 years, it's going to be very successful. Those are the type of people that we want working for us. And it doesn't matter. I've been in this business for so long. We've taken DJs that, have come off of cruise ships, or DJs that worked in clubs, and tried to put them in the same type of atmosphere that we do. And it just doesn't work out. Because either A, they play the wrong music. All of our stuff is clean, and we provide ourselves, or I wouldn't say provide, but we really want that reputation of Bugsie Productions to show that A, we're not going to be playing explicit lyrics at any type of an event. If that's the type of DJ you want, we'll send you somewhere else. So again, we do have the opportunity to be picky, only because we have a clientele that we want to make sure that we have forever, and that's it. So
yeah, it's so hard nowadays, and especially just with tons of reschedules and everything now, and just making sure, like you said, that people know who they're going to have. And like, even, if Matt's going to do a wedding or whoever, like, we all meet. I mean, people know, who's going to be there, who's going to be at the wedding, what faces to expect. And it's crazy to me. Yeah. Like, you get these DJs and they start hiring out, or like I said, a lot of times with videographers, and even now where like people are moving, weddings around to like, later this year, next summer. And like, I've seen photo and video people be like, oh, well, we might just have to give them an associate now. Like, who knows? Like, I got to keep booking stuff. And you're like, well, man, like, you're booking these clients, with the personalities and stuff, right, that you think are going to mesh. And then you're trying to like push it off. It gets really messy. And I really like how clean you guys, take that approach and really make sure that like, you're handpicking kind of the people that you want to be together. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, it works both ways. I mean, they're picking us based on our personalities and what it is that we provide. I mean, they're getting either a review from some other client that we've done, or they've gone online and read all the reviews that we have on, Wedding Wire, The Knot, or, Yelp, Google, whatever. And they're coming to us. A lot of times people do their research. If somebody's just going to call us up and say, hey, we want pricing, I've got no problem sending them pricing. But again, it's going to be that one-on-one interview that we either have nowadays through Zoom or over the phone, so that we can actually find out whether or not, who's going to be the best fit for them. I honestly, we had one DJ years ago. This is kind of a backstory. So the first guy I ever hired, his name was Dustin, really nice guy. He called me up, and the groom was wanting this song played, and he knows that we do not play songs with explicit lyrics. And at the time, there was certain rappers who you couldn't make re-edited versions. There was no clean edit that they had. And so the groom had asked him repetitively, play the song. I want you to play the song. And I told Dustin, I was like, listen, you got to think about it as, would you play this song with your grandma in the car? Because at a wedding, your grandma's there, your grandpa's there, maybe your mom's there, or your dad's there, whoever. But could you sit in a car listening to that rap song and be okay with it? And every answer I get is no, I probably wouldn't listen to it. So then why would it be okay to play that song at a wedding? So getting back to the story though, so Dustin had ended up succumbing to the pressure from the groom, played the song. Next thing you know, I'm getting a call from the mom telling me that he played this song that was inappropriate. So things happen at weddings, but you have to be able to, he doesn't work for me anymore, but you have to be able to know when to say, no, that's not appropriate. I don't care if it's the bride or the groom. We want to basically make sure that they get what they want. But now we just have expectations laid out ahead of time that, there is no songs that we'll play that have profanities in them.
Yeah, that's right. I remember the first explicit CD I ever got was when I was a kid, was Green Day Insomniac, and I had to sit and play it in the car with my mom, and we had to go through all the lyrics to make sure that that I knew what was appropriate and what was not appropriate. And so I definitely empathize with that, and I definitely know way more about the explicit ratings on CDs back in the day than I probably should have.
Oh yeah, I remember Sublime listening to that with my mom in the car. Man, I was so embarrassed when I first started listening to it with her sitting next to me. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why am I playing this song?
I know it's you kind of forget all those memories, but yeah, and like we had the Dangerous Paradise Dangerous Minds, the soundtrack came out with Gangster's Paradise, and that was a huge hit. That dates me, whatever, how young or old I am, depending on what you're listening to. But yeah, and having that be the explicit was a touchy subject.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we just figured it's easier to get rid of all profanity. Or just not play songs that have profanity on them. I mean, there's been times where we were asked to play, like a Metallica song coming back from a reception, and there was no way I could cut out this one specific lyric that I didn't think was appropriate in the song. But the groom was like, yeah, I just want to play it no matter what. And I told him, I was like, well, then you need to find a different DJ company, because it's not going to happen. And I told him I'd refund all of his money. But I just did not want to play that song because I just thought it was extremely inappropriate. So whether we didn't end up playing it and he didn't find another DJ, I think he came to the realization that it was probably the not the right time to play that song.
Uh, I had a similar experience at our wedding when my wife wanted to play "Return of the Mac" as we came back up from the first kiss, and our DJ had to say, "Yeah, that's probably not the most appropriate song to be playing at a wedding. It's Return of the Mac after you guys are pronounced husband and wife."
Oh yeah. I can remember my weddings. I wanted Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy as I'm walking down the aisle with all my groomsmen and stuff, right? My wife like ixnayed that like crazy. She's like, yeah, it's not going to happen. I was like, you can do it during rehearsal, but it's not going to happen for the ceremony. I'm like, why? Come on. Everybody's head's going to turn. Everybody's going to start laughing. It's going to kind of release some of the emotions out of the room. It's just going to create a great atmosphere, right? And it didn't matter what I said. It was just never going to happen. So
tell me a little bit about your wedding. I want to hear about that.
So my wedding was back in 2003. I can't even remember most of it. All I remember is that we had this got really, really personal. We had an officiant who was ex-Seventh-day Adventist, because all of my family were Catholic, but they could care less who the minister was. But yeah, on my wife's side of the family, it had to be a Seventh-day Adventist, that was going to be marrying us. But yet we didn't, and I did not tell my father-in-law or anyone on that side of the family that he was an ex-Seventh-day Adventist. He was just part of that church, and he was still registered, so they could, do their due diligence, check and see exactly who he was and so forth. Long story short, it all worked out really well. I can't even remember the names of the songs that we used for the dance. I did have a friend come in and sing the first dance for my father-in-law and my wife, who had owed me a favor. So that was really cool. As a DJ, I had one of my guys actually DJ our wedding. But towards the end of the night, as it is so hard for me not to get on the turntables back then, I ended up DJing my wedding for about 30 minutes. And then I was asked to get off of it and let him do his job so that I could enjoy the rest of the day, which was, again, hard.
No, that was, I had a similar, we had a live stream going for my grandpa down in Oregon. And yeah, I was definitely like, my planner had to literally grab me by the shoulders and move me into the line to get lined up, because I was too busy fiddling with the video settings.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's what we do, it's making it perfect. And, if we do it our own wedding, it's nothing different, right?
No, and it's something you care about, right? I mean, you wouldn't be doing that if you didn't care and just love what you do,
Yeah, I think the love, again, developing or finding that fine line from money to success and happiness. You got to do what you love to do.
I'm really curious to hear your thoughts, being in the market for as long as you have and starting, and I'm starting to gain an opinion, but, my time in the business is way less. But just, being a DJ in Seattle for years, the market changing and people coming in. I mean, what has been, the biggest changes or takeaways? I mean, you could kind of go with it in whatever direction you want, but just as someone that's been here for so long, kind of in the industry, I just want to hear your thoughts.
As far as how it's going?
Well, just, I mean, what have you done to stand the test of time? I mean, what have you thought, obviously seeing people come and go and trends change. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could kind of take it depending on what interests you.
For us, it's just keeping up with the music. The music changes, and that's probably the biggest thing that we notice all the time. I mean, stuff that I used to play back in the early 90s to today is completely different. A lot of people want to hear certain songs, and so for like a wedding, say for example, if you were getting married and you came to me and was like, hey, maybe they're in their early 20s or mid 20s or whatever, and you already have an idea as far as the style of music they may want to hear. But we kind of help give guests the opportunity to pick and choose the songs that they want throughout the day. And then once they pick a song, we can kind of have a better understanding as far as the style of music that they like. Then to give you an idea, say Cocktail, we just had a bride and groom call me the other day asking me, hey, we want like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, blah, 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 for cocktail hour. And I'm like, Okay, so you like jazz? I'm like, yeah. What about big band music? And they're like, yeah, that's what we're talking about. And I'm like, so big band music is not Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra. Maybe Etta James, Duke Ellington, things like that is big band compared to, I think, what they were looking at. So you just get done having the ceremony. Everybody's excited. They're ready to have this party, this reception after the ceremony. The last thing you want to do is play Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, things like that are great music, but just not going to keep everybody uplifted, right? Especially for people who are in their mid-20s.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we have this version of big band music that kind of helps create a mixture between the style of music they're looking for compared to what they're asking for. I mean, I got no problem playing Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, or whatever it is that the bride and groom had asked for. I just think there's going to be a different place during the reception for that. So maybe it's during dinner, while people are sitting down enjoying themselves and grandma and grandpa or uncles or whatever are sitting at the table. They know that stuff, right? But they don't necessarily want to be hearing it after the ceremony, because I guarantee you half of the bridesmaids and groomsmen, even though if they're off taking pictures, are still going to be able to hear the music that we're playing. So you want to probably play a little bit more current stuff with some older things, during cocktail, or just play big band swing music. We've actually had big band swing music playing for a lot of corporate events, or not corporate, but for weddings, during cocktail. Well, people will almost get up and dance during cocktail.
Well, it's just tough because, like you said, people, you have the music that you like or whatever, and that it just doesn't necessarily translate to like, okay, we're going to have, 150, 200, 250 people, like all, it's just not, it's really hard to kind of make that balance,
Oh, extremely. Yeah. I mean, there's always, as we tell all of our clients, there's a special place for every single song that you pick. It just may not be ideal for a cocktail, a dancing or whatever, because some people necessarily won't get up and dance. I mean, there's songs by, let's just say like, I don't want to say Tupac, but let's just say like Pitbull. You don't necessarily want to hear Pitbull during cocktail, right? Because Pitbull has a lot of songs that are great for dancing.
I would say my wife would want to hear Pitbull no matter what. No,
well, I know you guys are big Pitbull fans, so that's kind of why I brought it up. I'm just saying, but there's a place for every single song. So,
are you saying are you saying my wife was correct in saying that "Live Like You Were Dying" should not be our first dance song like I originally wanted?
I'm not going to go there. That's between you and your wife. Again, right said Fred, I'm too sexy. That was my choice. My wife ixnayed it. I mean, you got to live with her for the rest of your life. And so, you want to make sure you're comfortable. So,
how do you keep things new now? I mean, obviously right now is lots of new things, but I mean, just in general, how do you, you have your family and stuff. I mean, are you still, investing in a lot of, energy into like, refining? I mean, everything's probably refined now. I mean, what do you do to kind of like breathe new life into the business and get things excited?
So at least once or twice a week, I have to set time aside and mix new music, because every single month, we get hundreds of songs a month that we have to go through and figure out, it's not probably going to be on the top 40s, the songs that we get, where is this going to be played at? Will it get popular? Even though it's heard on the radio, top 40, maybe it's a clean edit or something like that. But how can we diversify ourselves in creating new songs, new rhythms by mixing stuff together that make it completely different? A couple years ago, Lil Jon made some songs that, what was that song? Lil Jon had made a song, but it had instrumental beats behind it. So we took out the instrumental beats and then matched it with a different song. And people loved it. I mean, we could make, what's her name? It was Adele. We took an old song from 50 Cent that had a song and threw Adele in there, took out the beats from, not the beats, took out the beats from the Adele song and put in the instrumental from this 50 Cent song. And it made Adele sound like she was a thug. So little things like that people are like, oh my gosh, I know that song, but I love the beats behind this a little bit more. So just, taking a new song, editing it, making it popular again, just finding that fine line, because even though we may create a playlist ahead of time with the bride and the groom, once we get there and we see their guests, most DJs probably won't tell you this, but we're going to be stereotyping the guests the entire time they're there, as they come in through the front door or as they come in for the ceremony, all the way through the reception. Our goal is to kind of keep an eye on, either the shoulders, the legs, things like that, to kind of watch, what they're vibing to, so that we can create that vibe throughout the entire day. Our goal is to get people on the dance floor and keep them there.
Yeah, that is something interesting. And we've talked. I mean, because I'm, I don't know any of this stuff. When it comes to like, mixing and all that. But you guys really do. I think even from the first time, I think we were talking at one of the Snohomish tours, and just like, I don't know, like the music theory or like whatever that's called, right? But like you said, mixing the things and really kind of like making sure stuff flows into one another. I mean, I do think you guys really take, a lot of pride, and are really good at that. Is that just kind of self-taught? I mean, where do you kind of like pick up all that stuff?
So the guy that taught me, he was 50 years old. He had vinyl. And so when we first started, that's what I used. And it went from vinyl to CDs, from CDs to, which is now time-coded vinyl. We don't use any of that stuff. It's all digital now. But it was just, I guess you could say it was more or less self-taught. Back when I first started, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff. YouTube didn't even exist, to be honest with you. So you couldn't necessarily find somebody to teach you the techniques that you needed to now today. Most of my guys, when they learned, especially the good ones like Sean and Yoshi, they all learned on CDs. There was no machine out there that would actually help you create or sync beats together to match with another song. I mean, you could listen to the beats, do the counts yourself, and then figure out whether or not, by listening to other songs, how am I going to mix that, like say, for example, like Uptown Funk into another song. Or one really cool one that we like to do is Billie Jean, the instrumentals behind that, into Staying Alive. So, I mean, you can use all those different variations of songs, even playing like a 10-second or a 30-second version of that song, and go anywhere you want to along the spectrum, whether it be Motown, hip hop, pop, R&B. So you have to put the effort in order to find the reward later. You have to practice. I mean, the biggest thing is practice as much as possible. Nobody's going to ever get good if they don't practice, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and what I think is so interesting about you guys and your company is the focus on, I think some DJs really, really focus on like the music thing, and then some people really, really like don't do any of that, and they really focus on, the presentation or like, the outward facing kind of to the group. And I do think you guys really do a good job of melding both of those. Do you feel like that is an accurate assessment?
Thank you, Reed. Yes. We take pride in doing everything we possibly can. We go to Vegas at least once a year, obviously not this year. But usually we go to Vegas to find out what's new on the market, whether it be equipment or new things that kind of help put us forward in the market. Our whole goal is to make sure that we just stay up with the market, or what can we find to help advance ourselves. Every DJ company is going to have photo booths. Every DJ is going to have some type of lighting nowadays. Back when we first started, we didn't have all the type of lighting that they do nowadays. It wasn't battery operated. It was stuff that you had to plug in, find gels, put over the lights, and they got hot. So you had to keep them away from certain things. Now everything's so automated and digitalized that you don't necessarily have to worry too much about that. It's about finding the best price and finding out exactly what the customer wants, and then how can you implement that into any type of an event that you're doing.
That's good. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Is there anything else you would like to? This is the Get to Know Your Wedding Pro podcast. This is your chance to share anything you've ever wanted to let more people know about you. Is there anything else I haven't asked you wanted to touch on?
No, I appreciate you having us on, and I'm sorry it took so long for us to actually get on your podcast. Yeah, we just appreciate it.
A couple things before I let you go. First off, if people want to learn more about you and the company and everything else, where would you have them check out?
If you want to find out more about Bugsie Productions, come to our website, www.bugsieproductions.com. We have a portfolio page. You can kind of see some of the events that we've done, from corporate events to weddings. I think mainly just weddings are on there right now, but we have some pictures of stages that we've been on in the past. Phone number, you can get a hold of us almost any time during the day, Monday through Friday from 10 to 4. Shoot us an email. We're usually pretty good about getting back to you within about 10 to 12 hours. If it's on a weekend, it'll be on a Tuesday.
The second thing is, and I know you had told me this before, but for the podcast, the history behind the Bugsie name.
I don't think we could go down that route.
Oh, really? I thought it was a nickname for someone.
It was nickname. So it was my nickname. So Bugsie Productions was a nickname that somebody had given me, and I can't tell you why or the whole reason behind it. But somebody told me that I could never call a company Bugsie and make it a success. So when somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to prove them wrong, and I'm just going to do it.
And the third question, and hopefully I don't strike out twice in a row. Did you have a clown name when you were at the clown business?
No, I did not have a clown name, so you did not strike out twice.
Oh, I thought everyone would have a clown name.
No, so I was a clown as kind of like a ride operator, but I never actually physically had a clown name. I didn't want one. My whole goal when I was dressed up like a clown, and this didn't come until probably about a year into the job, after painting my face with white and trying to design things, was how could I look? I didn't want to look crazy like a clown, but I didn't want to look too scary, but I didn't necessarily want to look like a loving clown, if that makes sense.
So if you could have a clown name and it wasn't Bugsie, what would your clown name be?
I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I have no idea.
Okay, well, we'll schedule another 2 years from now. We'll schedule another episode on the podcast.
Awesome. About all the things I should have done, right?
No, this has been great. You've been so generous with your time. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on.
Thank you, Reed. I appreciate it. You have a wonderful day. And
if you're like Craig and you're interested in coming on a future episode of the podcast, you can go to www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a nice, easy questionnaire that we have set up that'll get you in the system. And I didn't make Craig do that because he's such a cool guy. But if you're someone that's interested in coming on, you can reach out that way. And that's a great way to get you in the system, and we can get rolling and thinking about having you come on. Thanks again. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding planner interview. Thanks so much.